Who is the Antichrist? This is a question that has sparked much discussion over the centuries, and today is no different. Throughout the centuries, this mysterious figure has been the subject of theories, fears, and dark prophecy. But before we delve into the greatest speculations about who the Antichrist might be, we need to understand what he truly represents and what signs, according to prophecies, indicate his arrival. The Antichrist is described in the Bible, primarily in the book of Revelation and in the letters of John, as a charismatic and powerful leader who will come into the world with a single mission: to deceive, dominate, and destroy. He will not emerge as an obvious villain, but as a false savior, someone who will bring promises of peace and prosperity, winning over millions of followers before revealing his true nature. What must the Antichrist be and do? The prophecies indicate that the Antichrist will not be an ordinary person. He must possess a series of characteristics to fulfill the role described in the sacred texts. Among the main signs are global leadership. He will be a powerful figure, someone with influence over entire nations. He could be a political leader, a religious figure, or even a wealthy magnate who controls the economy. Charisma and deception. Unlike a classic tyrant, he will be admired, almost revered, and many will believe he has the answers to the world's problems. Promises of peace and unity. At first, he will be seen as a peacemaker, someone who can unite peoples, resolve crises, and bring stability. A rapid and unexplained rise. He may seemingly come out of nowhere, gaining power in a meteoric and inexplicable way. Rejection of the divine. He will place himself above God and faith, demanding worship for himself. The mark of the beast, 666. This is the most famous detail. The prophecies say he will be identified by the number 666, which may be linked to his name, his actions, or some system he will control. Here arises one of the most debated questions among scholars and theologians. Does the Antichrist need to be Jewish? There is no definitive answer, but some interpretations suggest he may have Jewish ancestry or at least a strong connection to Israel. This is based on some Old Testament prophecies and the belief that he will present himself as the false Messiah. Jewish thought the true Messiah should come from the lineage of David. If the Antichrist wishes to be accepted as such, he would need to have some connection to this ancestry. On the other hand, many Christian interpretations reject this idea, saying the Antichrist could be of any nationality or origin, as long as he has global power and can deceive multitudes. After all, his greatest characteristic is not his origin, but his capacity for manipulation and domination. But could this figure already be among us? Throughout history, various personalities have been pointed out as possible candidates for the title of Antichrist. From emperors to political leaders, from billionaires to influential public figures, who are the most cited names? But first, subscribe to the channel to support me, leave a like on the video, and comment below who you think it is before I mention the name. And remember, these are just famous theories, and there are no accusations in this video. Nero, the first Antichrist in history. Since the early days of Christianity, one name has been associated with the Antichrist: Nero, the most infamous Roman emperor in history. But was he truly the figure prophesied in Revelation, or just a cruel tyrant who persecuted Christians? Born in the year 37 AD, Nero became emperor at the age of 17, and during his reign was responsible for a series of brutal acts, conspiracies, and execution. But it was in the year 64 AD that he truly entered the history of terror. The Great Fire of Rome devastated the city, and many believe that Nero himself had ordered the fire to rebuild it in his own image. To divert blame, he accused the Christians, initiating the first great persecution of Christianity. Historical accounts say that Nero sent Christians to the arena, where they were devoured by lions, crucified followers of Jesus, and even burned them alive as human torches to light his garden. With this, he became one of the most hated rulers in history. But why was Nero associated with the Antichrist? The number 666. Many scholars believe that the number of the beast, 666, could be a reference to Nero. In the Hebrew alphabet, if you add the numerical values of the letters in the name Nero Caesar, the result is exactly 666. This led some to believe that John, the author of Revelation, was speaking about Nero in a coded way to avoid reprisal. The prophecy of Nero's return. In ancient Rome, a rumor emerged that Nero had not actually died, but would return one day to reclaim the empire. This idea was associated with the concept of the Antichrist emerging at the end of times to rule the world. Hatred of Christians. The Antichrist, according to prophecy, would persecute and kill God's followers. Nero did exactly that, spreading terror among the early Christians. Despite these connections, many believe that Nero was simply a cruel emperor and that the Antichrist is yet to come. However, the fact that his name is linked to 666, his brutal persecution of Christians, and the legend of his return made him one of the first major candidates for this dark figure. But if Nero wasn't the Antichrist, who could it be? There are other theories about historical and even contemporary figures who fit this profile, and some of them are even more controversial. Pope John Paul II, an Antichrist disguised as a saint? Imagine a figure respected worldwide, admired by millions, and revered as one of the greatest religious leaders in history. Now, what if I told you that some theories suggest this very figure could be the Antichrist? This is the case with Pope John Paul II, one of the most influential pontiffs in the Catholic Church, but who for some might be linked to the prophecies of the end times. John Paul II assumed the papacy in 1978, becoming the first non-Italian pope in over 400 years. His charisma, leadership, and ability to unite people made him a global icon, but it is precisely here that some biblical interpretations begin to raise suspicion. According to the book of Revelation, the Antichrist would be an extremely popular leader, someone who would win the admiration of the entire world before revealing his true intentions. But why was John Paul II pointed out by some as a possible Antichrist, the Pope who resurrected? In 1981, John Paul II was the target of an assassination attempt in St. Peter's Square in the Vatican. He miraculously survived, which for some fits the prophecy in Revelation 13:3, where it speaks of the beast that receives a mortal wound but survives. This event fueled the theory that he was the prophesied figure, the supposed prophecy of Malachi. In the 12th century, Archbishop St. Malachi allegedly made a list of all the popes until the end of time. According to some interpretations of this list, John Paul II would be the penultimate pope before the arrival of the false prophet and the Antichrist. The pope who conquered the world, John Paul II traveled to over 120 countries, was received with adoration by crowds, and managed to unite different religions and cultures under his influence. Some believe that this ability to unite the world under a single religious leader fits the description of the Antichrist in Revelation. The connection to the number 666, some theorists claim that his name could be associated with the number of the beast 666 through Kabbalistic calculations. However, these connections are not exact and are often forced to fit the theory. The prophecy of the return. Some believe that John Paul II could return, but not in a literal sense. The theory states that a future pope could emerge and act as a second coming of John Paul II, continuing his legacy, but this time as the false prophet described in the book of Revelation. Despite these theories, John Paul II remains one of the most beloved figures in the history of Christianity. He was canonized as a saint in 2014, and his legacy is seen as positive for the Catholic Church. Ronald Reagan, the president who carried the number of the beast. Ronald Reagan is widely remembered as one of the most influential presidents of the United States, a leader who faced the Cold War and helped shape the modern world. But as strange as it may seem, some theories suggest he could be the Antichrist, or at least a figure strongly linked to the prophecy. Reagan was president between 1981 and 1989, being one of the most popular leaders of his time. But then, why did some people start raising this bizarre theory? The number 666? This is the most famous argument. Ronald Reagan's full name was Ronald Wilson Reagan. Each of these three names has exactly 6 letters, forming 666, the number of the beast mentioned in the book of Revelation. For those who believe in the prophecy, this could not be just a coincidence. The assassination attempt and resurrection. Like John Paul II, Reagan was also the target of an assassination attempt. In 1981, a shooter fired at him, and he narrowly survived, something considered almost miraculous. In the book of Revelation, there is a passage that speaks of a beast that receives a mortal wound but recovered. For some, this episode reinforced the theory that Reagan could be the Antichrist. Reagan's role on the world stage. During his presidency, Reagan helped accelerate the collapse of the Soviet Union, which led many to see him as an almost messianic leader in the West. He was an extremely influential figure, and according to the prophecies, the Antichrist would be a powerful ruler, admired by many. The change of address. After the presidency, after leaving the White House, Reagan moved to a mansion in Los Angeles. The problem? The original address was 666 St. Cloud Road. Apparently, this bothered the family so much that they changed the house number. For those who already saw Reagan as a possible Antichrist, this only fueled further suspicions. A rapid rise to power. Reagan began his career as an actor in Hollywood before entering politics. His trajectory from celebrity to world leader fits the description of someone who gains the trust of the masses before revealing his true nature. Baron Trump, the future Antichrist? Among all the theories about who the Antichrist could be, one of the most unexpected involves Baron Trump, the youngest son of Donald Trump. But how could a boy who has barely appeared in the media be linked to this dark prophecy? The connections are strange, but some people believe he could be the figure described in the book of Revelation. The theory arises from a mix of numerology, historical coincidences, and even ancient books that seem to predict the rise of a son of the future. Let's look at the strangest points that make some believe Baron Trump could be the Antichrist. The son of the dragon. In the Bible, the Antichrist is described as the son of the beast, someone who would inherit the power of a great deceiving leader. And who is Baron's father? Donald Trump, a controversial figure who has already been accused of being the Antichrist in some theory. If Trump is the beast, Baron could be the one who inherits global dominion in the future. The book, The Last President. In 1896, a writer named Ingersoll Lockwood published a book titled Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. The book tells the story of a boy named Baron Trump who lives in New York and discovers portals to other worlds. But the strangest part, the same author also wrote another book called The Last President, which describes a billionaire who becomes president and divides the country. For many, this seems like a bizarre prediction about Donald Trump and his son Baron. Baron's name and the number 666. Some theories attempt to connect Baron to the number of the beast, 666, in the same way they did with Ronald Reagan. Although, there is no clear correspondence. Some people manipulate numerological values to fit him into the prophecy. Silent and mysterious growth. Unlike Trump's other children, Baron has barely appeared in the media, and there is a certain mystery surrounding him. According to some prophecies, the Antichrist would grow in the shadows, away from the spotlight, until he is ready to assume power. Trump's connections to Jerusalem. Donald Trump was the president who recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel, a step that many Christians see as crucial to the prophecy of the end time. According to some theorists, Baron could be the global leader who will emerge to bring a false peace to the world before revealing his true identity. Despite all this, there is no concrete evidence that Baron Trump is the Antichrist. For now, he is just a boy who grew up in the White House and avoids the spotlight. But for those who believe the Antichrist will be a young, mysterious, and power-inheriting figure, Baron Trump remains a name that raises suspicions. Jared Kushner, the Antichrist of the 21st century? Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law and one of his closest advisors, has been the target of several conspiracy theories, and one of the strangest claims that he could be the Antichrist. Sounds absurd, maybe, but some connections made by theorists of apocalyptic prophecies suggest that he fits several characteristics described in the book of Revelation. Kushner is a billionaire, businessman, and political strategist who gained enormous influence during the Trump administration despite never being elected to any public office. But why has he been associated with the Antichrist? Here are the points fueling this theory. The office in building 666. This is, without a doubt, the biggest coincidence that makes many people suspicious of Kushner. In 2007, his company Kushner Companies purchased one of the most iconic buildings in New York, 666 Fifth Avenue. For those who believe in the prophecy of the Antichrist, the fact that he acquired a property that literally carries the number of the beast is reason enough to raise suspicion. The pursuit of peace in the Middle East. According to the Bible, the Antichrist will be a leader who brings a false peace to the world, especially in the Middle East. And what did Jared Kushner do? He was the main architect of the Abraham Accords, a peace treaty between Israel and several Arab countries. For many, this sounds exactly like what is described in the book of Daniel, where the Antichrist is portrayed as someone who makes a peace agreement before revealing his true nature. Judaism and prophecy. Some interpretations of scripture say that the Antichrist may have Jewish ancestry, as he would need to be accepted as the Messiah by Jews before becoming a global leader. Kushner comes from an influential Orthodox Jewish family and has direct ties to Israel, which fits this criterion. Silent and powerful influence. Unlike figures like Trump or other political leaders, Kushner operates behind the scenes. He doesn't give fiery speeches, but moves powerful pieces in global politics without drawing attention to himself. In Revelation, the Antichrist doesn't emerge as a violent tyrant right away. He first gains power subtly, something many say Kushner is doing. The name Kushner and numerology. Some theorists have tried to manipulate numerology to find connections between the name Jared Kushner and the number number 666, just as they have done with other candidates for the title of Antichrist. Although there is no direct link, the fact that his last name is associated with the 666 Fifth Avenue building reinforces the belief of conspiracy theorists. Despite these connections, it's important to remember that Jared Kushner has never done anything publicly to suggest malicious intentions or any ambition to dominate the world. He is a businessman and political advisor, but for those who believe the Antichrist will emerge as a charismatic and influential leader, he fits the profile perfectly. Coincidence or a sign of the end time? That's for you to decide. And that's today's video. Remember, all of this is just theory, and if you enjoyed it, leave a like on the video. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.